Most mornings have started like this lately, with wet boots, soaked sleeves, and the constant sound of rain pattering away in and around the garden. The garden feels like it's moving along a little slower this spring, and maybe that has something to do with all the rain. There's always a to-do list, and right now I'm focusing on staking up my plants and just trying to plant any seedlings that I can right now in and around the landscape. And today that means planting some of my delphiniums I have started from seed. I absolutely adore a delphinium for a cottage garden, especially alongside a fence. Here's a view of what they looked like last year, and I think they just look so whimsical and beautiful intermixed along with some roses, and they are super hardy and have been reliable for me and come back every single year so far. Delphiniums are incredibly easy to start from seed, and while I don't expect them to flower in their first year, starting next year I can expect to have some beautiful delphiniums here alongside this fence and then for years to come. Now, with a recent break in the rain, I'm setting aside some time to harvest the last remaining tulips. And while it is bittersweet to see some of that color disappear out of this raised bed garden, I am looking forward to starting a new project, which will be to replace and repair some of these garden beds which have weathered and shown its age recently, and it's time for a bit of a refresh. But first, let's enjoy harvesting the last bit of tulips for 2025. The most ambitious goal I have this spring is to slowly begin converting this flower patch that was very beautiful last year in fall into a raised bed flower patch. Now, I'm doing this for a couple of reasons. First being the flower patch was a little hard to maintain and control last year, and also I didn't like the fact that the fabric you see here was deteriorating and was not doing a good job at controlling the weeds, and weeds were coming up through. It just was getting to be a little difficult for me to maintain. Also, we do have a new puppy, and I want to keep him safe and limit the amount of plants he could get himself into and potentially eat. It just would worry me too much if he would eat something that maybe he shouldn't. So there's a couple of different reasons why I want to convert this to a raised bed area too. Also, I do envision intermixing my raised beds more with edibles too. So I do have some raspberries I want to grow and just give myself a little bit more flexibility to add in more veggies or fruit bearing trees and shrubs into my garden. These are not going to be fancy raised beds. My husband had a great term for it. He said these are going to be rough raised beds, meaning they're not going to be finished. We're just using some hemlock, which was actually quite a bit cheaper for us than cedar. Now, we also aren't doing anything to seal these either. Now, I've never used a sealer on my raised garden beds, and maybe I should have. Maybe that would have helped to extend the life of my other raised beds. But the thought of putting some sort of chemical sealant on my raised beds, I just didn't love that idea. I know there are some natural types too, but honestly, I was a little impatient and just wanted to get these built and going because I have so many seedlings that I want to get started and throw into these. You'll also see too, I decided to, again, not lay down any landscape fabric, and you'll see that I will be putting at the bottom of these raised beds some cardboard, some brown paper bags. That will be my natural weed barrier. And I'm filling the beds first with logs, twigs, leaf mold, anything that I have been keeping in and around underneath my pine trees to add in those first layers before adding in any manure and raised bed soil, because that can add up and get to be pretty expensive. So I'm focusing on using anything first in and around my landscape that will compost down and help keep the costs lower for these raised beds. The final dimensions to this flower patch are still 15 by 15 feet like my original flower patch, but the raised beds themselves are about 2 feet tall, and in the longest areas they're about 14 feet long. We still have yet to build 2 more smaller beds in the middle of this horseshoe shape, but that's more to come. I didn't know it at the time, but now I know that I definitely did not put enough soil into these beds. What I should have done is taken my hose and wet down the layers before adding in the cow manure and the raised bed mix on top, because I'll show you in my next video, this soil level has sunk down quite a bit. So future me will be adding in some extra compost, soil, and manure in the fall. It will be fine now, but just looking back, I thought that this was going to be enough, but it shrunk down a couple of inches from the level that it's at now. Not a big deal. These plants will still thrive and be happy, but just going to be a little bit lower than I expected. slowly continue to chip away at the backyard garden. I'm also simultaneously working on the side garden raised beds, as you'll see here, and we just finished our first one. The dimensions are still 4 by 4, but instead of being about 6 inches tall, they're now raised to about a foot. And it is making planting so much more enjoyable. I already enjoy planting raised beds, but I just love it even more. And I'm so excited to put out these onion seedlings that I started earlier this year. I think next year I may actually dedicate more space to planting onions. I love making soups and stews in the winter, and there's just something so gratifying about going down into my basement and grabbing an onion or a potato that I had grown and harvested for my very own garden. So I think that's going to be a goal for next year.